am I? Oh. Hello and welcome to the Festival of the Unexplained. And for some reason, I can't see myself. So I don't actually know what's happening. I'm thinking I'm absolutely useless at this today. And I do not actually know what is happening. And I think my camera. Okay. Well, anyway, guys, you can hear my voice, so that's all right at the moment. So thank you for joining us for the Festival of the Unexplained. I hope you're having a fantastic day so far. Now, I'm going to bring in my really good friend, John Tolliday, to the stream. And
hello.
Let's see.
Hi.
I don't know why this. Oh, we have liftoff, I think. Why are we having? I don't know what's going on with this. We might have to just record this. I'm just going to ring Karen because for some reason it won't even put us into the thing, will it? So.
No.
Oh,
yeah, I haven't been able to see anybody's picture.
No, yeah.
Oh,
there you are.
Okay, so right, okay, that's what we need to do. So, right, leave it with me. I think what we need to do is when we press the overlay, we need to take that off.
Right,
so
okay.
I just need to go back. Oh, God, this bloody laptop. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell Karen we need to start this video from 3 minutes in, okay? So I'm going to remove you guys again, and then we'll start all over.
No problem.
Oh, God. What a nightmare. Oh, hopefully it should work out for the best. Fingers crossed, guys. Right, so guys, and we're back. I've just had a few technical issues, but anyway, we've managed to sort that now. So how is everything today? You probably haven't seen me as of yet, but here I am. I'm Jo. I'm going to be one of your hosts this afternoon with my amazing friend, Mr. John Tolliday. So
hi Jo. Hi everybody.
You've been good?
Very good, thank you.
Good. I think the festival in itself has been absolutely amazing so far, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been fantastic, and we've got so much more to come still. So.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be amazing this whole weekend that we have. So we have a glamorous young lady, and she rides a motorcycle, and quite a lot of you may not have heard of her before, even though she's very, very well known on VidiSpace. She has her own YouTube channel and her own Facebook page, but she also has her own website as well. Now, this young lady doesn't need really any introductions. She's one hell of a biker chick. She is absolutely stunning as well. And she is known as Miranda Young from GhostBiker Exploration. So hi, Miranda.
Hi, Miranda.
Hello, thank you for having me on.
No, thank you
very
much.
To have you.
So what was your thoughts about the festival? Because I know we were chatting previously, weren't we, about the festival that we did before. What was it about the festival that you wanted to come on and share your experiences with us?
Well, I love the fact that it's an at-home festival, excuse me, and it gives the opportunity for everyone to get out and watch. It doesn't matter where you're located. And, I'm excited to be able to share what I do and expand my audience with people in your area and, just around the world. So this was a great opportunity for that. And I was just real impressed and learned a whole lot from the guests at the last Festival of the Unexplained.
Yeah, it was a great, to actually say that we kind of, but you put it together in literally next to no time. Karen did an amazing job, and it's great that we've managed to get this 36-hour marathon going as well now.
Absolutely.
So, isn't it, John? So, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. Okay, why not? Okay, Miranda. So, being a biker, of course, a fellow biker, how did the GhostBiker exploration come around? How did it start?
Well, I've been a paranormal investigator for about 10 years now, and I've also been writing for about 12. And so I found that while I was out investigating with the team that I used to be a member of, I was also going out on the weekends and in the evenings by myself on my motorcycle, taking pictures and telling stories about some really interesting and unique locations that I was traveling to. And so I was sharing these locations on my social media, and I had a lot of people asking questions about the photography and about my travels and saying, are these locations haunted, or what is the history and the story behind these places? And so, I kind of got to thinking about it. I thought, well, why don't I document all of this through video? And so, and then I was also riding my motorcycle to the different locations that I was investigating with the team. So I sat down, started thinking about it, and put the whole concept together for the web series. And I was spending so much time recording these episodes and putting those together that I ended up stepping away from the team because I was doing their marketing as well as putting their videos out. And it wasn't really fair to the team to be able to, to do both. So I really wanted to see where GhostBiker Explorations took me. And here we are rolling into the third season. So, that's really how it got started.
That's great. I mean, did you find the change from being in a team to an individual ghost investigator difficult, or did you have its own problems?
At times, yes. I mean, there's definitely some challenges. I do collaborations with other investigators and other teams, but I find I really have to kind of plan my investigations out really thoroughly because, I am traveling on the motorcycle, so I do have to travel light. So I have to be really particular about, the equipment that I take. I have my essential equipment that I always have, and then I tailor my trigger items to the specific locations. And then, when you're at a place, if it's a large place, you're there for multiple hours, sometimes multiple days, just trying to have that dialogue and be creative with the experiments and stuff you do can sometimes be a challenge because you're not feeding off those other team members.
So did you do your own filming as well as everything else? So you just literally have a camera and do it all yourself?
That was how it was originally set up. The first 2 seasons, I was actually followed by a videographer. My friend Josh, who's not a paranormal investigator, he kind of set me up as far as like filming some of the shots on the motorcycle that I couldn't do. And so for my trailers and that sort of thing. And then I tailored my camera equipment to doing vlog style, but then also GoPro while I'm on the motorcycle and that sort of thing. I try to do as much filming as I can on my own. But he followed around for the first 2 seasons. And he actually created a really unique dynamic because a lot of the people who watch my episodes aren't paranormal investigators. Yeah. So he created a really cool character that a lot of people could identify with, was this silent person who was following around. And he actually became a part of the show by sometimes with his reactions, because it's kind of hard to be in a location, something crazy happened, and then try to be quiet. Yeah. So we kept that in the show. And due to COVID and everything with the changes of 2020, we started to go in more of a direction of solo investigation. So this season, there are some where I'm filming just with myself and a camera, and other times it's myself and another person on site.
How do you go about looking after your own safety when you're in these locations on your own? Because, in locations, it's dark, isn't it? And like you say, you have to look after yourself. But obviously, when you're on your own, what safety measures do you take?
Well, I look at the safety measures from 2 different angles, from the spiritual level and then also from the physical level, because a lot of these locations are in not so safe, unsavory areas. And so a couple locations that I filmed at earlier this year, I was there completely solo. but it was investigations I had gone with another team. They were investigating. So the locations at this point, I went by myself, met them there. They came out of Florida. I came out of Tennessee, and we met in Mississippi. And so on the first night I investigated at this funeral home by myself, they were about 10 minutes down the road. And so then the next night I investigated at the jail where they were at the night before, and they investigated at the funeral home. So if it's a location that's owned by somebody, then I always make sure, they know if I'm there alone, and we kind of do a check-in process because you just never know. Somebody come in, some of these places you may fall through the floor. Yeah. So while I am alone when I'm doing the investigation, I either have one other person with me, and I will state that because I try to keep, transparency. But I either have one person with me, or I have someone nearby that we are in a constant communication just in case.
I mean, it's very unusual, isn't it, Joe, that we get an individual going out doing investigations in this way. We don't get that in the UK very much.
I think just for like the urban exploration that we can do here in the UK, I think there is an awful lot of people who would go out on their own, but I think there are a lot of unsavory characters that just hang around these places. So it's not, it isn't safe for you to go out. But like you say, if you're collaborating with another team and you have that, communication with them, and you're investigating two areas in 2 separate nights, I think that's an amazing idea. And that might be something that, may start to happen more in the UK as as COVID lifts and we start exploring again. And, I know we do have a lot of teams who urban explore, who are on Facebook and, quite good friends of ours. And, they're in quite big groups though. But do you find that if you have big groups that the activity tends to dissipate with the noise, the noise pollution?
Yes. And that's one of the good things about what I do. So let me step back a second before I answer this question. A lot of the places that I investigate aren't your typical commercial locations. They're more local legends. So sometimes there's not the opportunity for a large group of people to congregate at some of these locations. Sometimes they're kind of quick in and quick out type investigations that I've, coordinated with the owner of the location. However, back to your question, I do find that, I try to keep my investigations small unless we're, hosting some type of public event. But I like to do that because I can really account for the type of unexplained activity that we're getting. Obviously, the more people, the more likely you are to have noise contamination or even, some type of visual contamination. So I'm pretty particular of who I will investigate with, just because when you're putting yourself in some of these situations, I kind of really want to be particular about their investigation style. Yeah. And, do we mesh well and that sort of thing. And then I do try to keep it small, because typically it's just myself or maybe another female or just another male. It's easier to account for if you get a child's voice or if I get a male's voice and there's not a male there. It's easier to classify it as unexplained.
Yeah. It also gives that little bit more credibility, doesn't it, to those VPs? Yeah. So obviously, we've got some questions as well for you, just on how you decide which locations that you want to visit and focus your shows on. How do you do that?
Well, I spend a lot of time at the archives and at different libraries. And so I get a lot of my different stories from, some of the different books that are local to each area. Like, for instance, maybe, Haunted Birmingham or Haunted Chattanooga, those sort of books. And so I'll read the local legends and the folklore. Other times, different people will reach out to me and say, hey, have you heard of this bridge or this particular road? You really need to come check this out. So we'll look into that further and then go to the archives. And then also, I often tell people, because, we've got a lot of really big commercial locations here, I challenge people to take a map, close your eyes, and touch anywhere on that map. And I guarantee you, you won't find a place that doesn't have some type of local story or local legend. It may be really small, but it may also be big and nationally known. So, it's pretty easy, when you kind of go for the smaller type locations to get a richer history and also to really target. And so those are the three ways that I typically find my locations.
Fantastic.
I'll go back to biker one there for you, Joe. So as far as your own style of investigation goes, do you consider yourself to be old school Harley or new tech jack bike style?
Oh, old school Harley.
Yeah. Easily the best.
What's your favorite piece of equipment?
I love my recorder, and I always have that on me, but probably my favorite piece would have to be my dowsing rods. What I love about those are the fact that they are very simple. Being paranormal investigators, I know you guys are no stranger to, technology malfunctions and battery drains. You don't have that with the dowsing rods. And here, you're not asking these spirits to touch things that they don't understand. Most of them, they know what dowsing rods are, they know what they're used for, and then they're very simple in just yes and no questions, and then asking to point out particular different areas in a room. So I would probably have to say my favorite tools would be my dowsing rods, my recorder, and probably my EDI box, because it can give me a consistent read on the scientific measurements of the pressure, the temperature, and that sort of thing.
So if anyone outside doesn't realise what an EDI box, do you want to explain what that is?
So I say, basically it's a science box, and I always have that in every room, every area that I go to, because, it will give me EMF readings. It's got the geofoam in it, and so it has to actually be physically touched to go off. It shows change in pressure, shows change in temperature in real time, and then you can also map this data through the SD cards.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's great, that, isn't it? Because, when you come back and you're actually watching your video footage, and if there are any spikes of EMF in that area and you can actually attribute that to an EVP, then that just corroborates that information, doesn't it? And it's always great to have that backup science element as well.
Yeah.
It is. And, I've had on several of my previous investigations, I've had where we've gotten, activity on the SLS camera at the exact same time that the stick figures on the SLS has been either touching the EDI box. And so it's been great to be able to correlate both of those, the type of activity together with the two pieces of equipment.
Do you use the SLS a lot in America? Because we had a sort of a spate, didn't we, where everyone was using SLS cameras in the UK, and they seem to have simply died off now. It's hardly ever used anymore.
I will sometimes, I usually take it with me on an investigation, because a lot of the time, and again, I'm particular about where I'm using it because I want to try to keep it as stationary as possible, because, it's going to start remapping itself when it's moved. And then also maybe using it in unique areas, door frames, obviously, anytime it has some type of area that it can, map, a figure out in a square rectangular area, a lot of the time you'll get false positives. But sometimes it's interesting if I'm going to be in an area that's wide open and going to be more still, I like using it. But I will typically use it, but usually just to kind of do a walk around or have it sitting up in conjunction to an EVP session that I'm doing.
All right. Okay. So I thought I was going to interrupt you then, Joe. Sorry. So
No,
for yourself, do you actually see spirits yourself? Are you able to see spirit?
I do something a little different that I've not actually highlighted on any of my episodes, but I will speak about it at different events or paracons that I do. I am an artist, and so every now and then I will see certain things. I know that, you guys are probably familiar with automatic writing.
Yeah.
Something that I do, I call it subconscious sketching. And so I've done this on a couple different occasions. And like I said, I don't really highlight it on the episodes because I feel like it's something that's kind of a special communication between myself and the spirits. But if, I'm kind of an old school investigator and spend a lot of time sitting, listening, and asking questions. And so on a couple different occasions, I did this on 6 different occasions, and I was able to match up what I did on 4. But what I would do is I would pick a specific area that kind of called to me, and I would set up different pieces of equipment, the EDI box, flashlights, the K2's REM pod. I would set up a different means of communication so they could choose what they like. And then I would sit there and just kind of ask questions, and I would never see an exact spirit. I might start to see things sort of like features, like kind eyes, dimples, pointy chin, that sort of thing. And so I would start to sit down, and I thought, I'm an artist, so why don't I try drawing this?
Yeah.
So I would ask a series of questions, and then when they would confirm on the different meters that I had sitting up, I would just start sketching what I saw. And again, I really wouldn't even know if it was going to be a male or female until I was finished drawing. And on one particular, the first time I was able to match it up, I actually drew a guy who was alive. I had it was really bizarre. And again, I'm still trying to figure the whole thing out. But I was drawing in a home that was popular during the Civil War, and they were Confederate sympathizers. And I ended up drawing this male. And, I was thinking I might be drawing, one of the cooks, since I was drawing in the kitchen. Well, when I finished it up, it was part of a 2-night investigation. The second day, when I was going to set up, the guy who was helping me set up, he said, "Hey, I need you to meet someone." And I went around the corner, and there was the man that I drew. And he was wearing the exact same hat, had the same beard, even the same lines on the side of his eyes. And so he was actually an investigator who was, his home base was there at that location that I hadn't met yet. So, and then there was another situation where I drew a child who had passed away at the location, and we were able to match that up instantly. So I don't see them per se, but it's something that I'm kind of working on and trying to hone in and develop further and figure out.
Do you think this connection when you are drawing adds to your investigation? Do you think it helps make things easy for you?
It does. It does sometimes. It adds a unique element, I guess. And, I feel like it adds kind of a more intimate touch or intimate approach to that. Typically before I go to a location, I will always draw the location and give the homeowner or the person who owns that location a copy of it. And then I will also sell prints, and that's how I fund my travels, is by selling prints of the actual haunted locations.
Right. Okay.
And then, every now and then, if it's a dark location, I won't draw to try to identify because I found I did this at one time and I didn't like what I drew, and I didn't draw for a little while. What I drew in this particular room, it was definitely not human. And so I feel I have to really open myself up when I do this. And so if it's a location that I'm either by myself or with one other person and it's relatively dark, I don't like to put myself in that position.
Right. See, now I'd go jumping in there, wouldn't I? That's my sort
Yeah,
of place.
I think it's kind of like when you're having to spiritually protect yourself from entities and from malevolent forces that can be at work in a vicinity of an area that you've investigated previously. How do you ground yourself in that sort of sense? How do you protect yourself?
Well, I'm constantly in prayer. I do the prayer of protection before and then after. And, one of the things I try to make sure when I go into these different places that I'm very well centered and grounded, and riding the motorcycle to these locations really helps me because that's, one of my escapes. And so, I'll do the prayer of protection before and after. And then, most of the time I'm in constant prayer when I'm actually doing the investigations.
Okay.
That's good.
Sounds really good, yeah.
So
sorry, go on.
Go on, John. No,
No, you go on.
No, it's fine. You go.
Okay. What is your next location you plan to visit to investigate? Can you tell us this one?
Well, I've got several. We're just in the process of dropping season 3, and so the location that will drop on Tuesday night is actually kind of a special location. It's really just marked by a roadside memorial, and it's unlike any of the episodes I've dropped before. It's investigated during the day. It is an outside location, and it has this amazing history from World War II. And so it's going to be a little bit different. As far as my next investigation, I've got a couple scheduled. The first part of the year, I hesitate to say where they're going to be at just because they may be some lives. Yeah. But I'm trying to get things booked up for next year and be able to release more than just during the season.
No, that's great. That's great. Thank you.
And whereabouts are you dropping season 3? Because I know you mentioned you're going to drop it on Tuesday. Yes. So are you launching that into VidiSpace and also your website?
Right now, so we launched episode 1 of season 3. My episodes run through the month of October, and they're every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Central Time. And so these episodes, they're actually dropping on the GhostBiker Explorations YouTube channel, the GhostBiker Explorations Facebook page, and on the GhostBikerExplorations.com website.
Fantastic. Do you see yourself ever working in the UK doing what you're doing at the moment?
I would love to. I would love to take a bike trip, once things open back up. I have actually never been to the UK. And so I've met some amazing people through doing these podcasts, and they've told me about some wonderful locations. And then there's a lot of different investigators that I follow that I've seen investigate some really cool places. So I really hope to possibly in 2021 or 2022 go over, rent a bike, and see what we can dig up.
There is some amazing places that you can get to on a bike here. The Lake District is absolutely phenomenal, and Scotland as well is so steeped in history here. You would have you'd need to live here for probably about a year to investigate everywhere.
It's a long bike ride, a very long bike ride. Of the locations I've already visited, especially season 2, which is the main one I've seen, because I haven't managed to catch number 1 yet. Have any been disappointing for you?
No, I don't think so. For me, all the locations are different, and I'm investigating throughout the year. We highlight usually 5 different places, and then I do different lives. For me, if I like to center the episodes around places that have a unique and interesting history. And so I often say that if I don't get anything during the investigation, I want to be somewhere that has an interesting enough history that will carry the episode. And so I kind of feel like some of these, I usually get something whenever I go to the different places. However, if I don't, I feel like it actually sort of validates the places that I do get something. So they're usually not a disappointment. I mean, in the heat of the moment, when you've spent time writing, spent a couple months researching and then writing your story and then going in and planning the investigation, it can be disappointing in the moment. But for me, it doesn't mean it's not active. It just means that either, it wasn't my night, or they just didn't want to communicate with me. So I feel like that actually really validates the times that I do have activity.
Yeah, And I love that you say that as well, because as paranormal investigators, we all love to know that there is activity at certain venues and certain locations. However, I would quite happily watch a TV show and have zero activity, because that just lends credibility to the whole show as well, doesn't it? It means that you're not going to compromise your own beliefs and your ethics to just come up with, you know, something that's faked. And you know, we have so many TV shows out there that, you know, that do I'm not going to say fake, you know, huge things, but they
kind of embellish.
Exactly. And it's, you know, it's quite, I think it's, you know, for our new up and coming, you know, like the younger generations that are coming up now. I mean, we're talking probably 2 generations down. They're all coming up now, and they're seeing this and thinking that it's normal for them to do that. Whereas you're trying to educate them into saying, you know, this isn't how it happens. This is what we should be doing.
Exactly. And a lot of people tend to get, you know, as far as like a lot of the paranormal entertainment shows, I mean, that's what they are. They're for entertainment most of the time. And so, you know, it just seems like at times people are always wanting to go, you know, investigating or ghost hunting, and for this thrill, because they think, you know, they're going to go in and it's just this rush, you know, and that they're going to have something, you know, people levitating or some kind of amazing voice they're going to hear. When a lot of the time, some of the best evidence is very simple and sometimes very, you know, hard to distinguish unless you're really going through and reviewing your evidence. Not a whole lot happens in real time as far as disembodied voices and such. And so I find that people, if they go with me sometimes, unless they're in it for the true investigation, a lot of the time they'll find themselves bored, because there's a lot of sitting, a lot of asking questions, a lot of, okay, you know, I'm going to try this. It may appear and look stupid, but, you know, you never know what you're going to get unless you try it. So a lot of trying, I guess.
But there's also a lot of waiting, isn't there? You have to wait, because, you know, they're not performing monkeys. We always say this. You know, they're not going to perform on command. You know, we could all be sat here talking and laughing, and then all of a sudden you'll hear something and it'll be captured on an EVP. And that's what people don't realize is, you know, the younger generations actually sit there. I mean, my daughter asks me all the time, Mummy, why does that happen? And, you know, why does this happen? And I'm constantly telling her, well, sometimes it doesn't happen like this. You have to really listen. And the younger generation are so tech savvy that they forget how to use their eyes, their ears, their sense of smell, everything, and all their senses. And I just think if they took their faces out of their phones, they may be able to experience, you know, the actual beautiful surroundings that we all investigate.
Exactly. And, you know, I often tell people, you know, because they'll say, well, you know, why do you investigate at night, or why do you do this, or why do you do that? And so I often tell people that it's like, well, I don't, you know, I investigate all the time. You know, it's just some places are lend to, you know, better filming and stuff at night because it's quieter, you know, and you can hear better, especially if it's a location that's in the center of town. But I often tell people that, you know, things are always happening around us. We just don't listen and pay attention. And I mean, I think, you know, there are more haunted places than what people realize, or there are more spirits that try to get our attention. We just don't pay attention.
Because like it's your own personal the best experiences we find out are also your own personal experiences, without the camera and without the EVPs rolling. You know, you get this without the footage being caught. Most of them are just yourself.
Exactly. And, you know, people, and that's sometimes hard to show, especially if you're documenting. You know, for me, I'm just, you know, I'm not trying to convince anybody or anything. I'm just going out and documenting my travels. And, you know, if I'm able to bring awareness to a location and also, you know, help with the historical and preservation efforts, then that's what I like to do. You know, I'll never classify something as haunted, but more so unexplained. And if somebody, you know, can come in and they can say, hey, Miranda, you know, I would explain this way, then I totally welcome that dialogue. But, you know, I try to put out, you know, if it is a personal experience, but, you know, unless you have the temperature gauge and stuff there, it's hard to show, the cold spots and the things that happen. They're basically going on your word. So I try to create a credible or be credible enough to where when it comes to trying to show those personal experiences that people, I guess, believe that when you're just sitting there trying to express that, when you're not even actually able to show the physical proof of it.
Yes, I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
Do you research, once you've done an investigation, do you research the findings you've actually had?
I do.
And do you actually go back to return with that information?
I try to. So if a location is somewhere that I'm going to highlight on an episode, I'll try to keep my episodes anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes just so that it keeps people's attention. And, sometimes when you're at a location for so long, it's hard to kind of cull it down to that little bit of time. But before I go, I spend as much time as I can researching at the local archives. I do look online, but, online, you never know what you're going to find. So I try to actually visit there and speak with people to get, legit accounts. And then, obviously afterwards it's the long process of going through and analyzing. So I try to do follow-ups. One of the locations that I covered was a residential that ended up becoming a year-long case. And I was going in and out of there on a monthly basis. So if I have the opportunity to go back, then I will take what I find on my episodes and go back for sure.
Yeah, I think you should always go back to legislations over and over again, because with the with evidence, evidence changes, doesn't it? And we all know how it all changes, and it could change through the atmospheric pressure. It could, anything like storms, rain, anything like that can have a massive impact on paranormal activity. But saying that, what has been your most compelling evidence to date?
Oh, goodness. I'd probably have to say I investigated Brushy Mountain State Prison in Petros, Tennessee. And what's interesting about those type locations are the fact that, they're so big and there's so many different people and such a vast array of activity that you're going to experience that, I've investigated there on 6 different occasions. And so, you and I could investigate on different days and, we're never going to get the same thing. Mm-hmm. So, and you can spend probably a full year just investigating, one particular cell and the activity that you get there. But one of the things that I will do if I go to a larger location, I will typically sleep there for a couple hours, again, because I'm on the motorcycle. And when I went to Brushy Mountain, it was the 5th time that I had investigated there. I actually slept in the hole, which was their solitary confinement area. And this location is literally in a hole. And there are 4 different cells that have 2 bunks in each cell, and they're pitch black. And they used these up until, I believe, the 60s when they deemed it inhumane. And so a lot of the prisoners would be in there for up to 20 something days. And by the time they came out, they wouldn't be able to see. They were given 2 buckets, one to eat and one to use the bathroom in. And so it was a very horrible and inhumane area. And so, like I said, on my 5th time investigating there, I actually decided to sleep in that area. And I slept for about 3.5 hours. And I got 3 minutes and 15 seconds of what I feel to be some of the best Class A evidence, Class A EVP evidence that I've ever gotten. And it was just myself, a recorder, and a video camera on me while I slept. And it was pretty amazing. There was a lot of residual, but then I also believe that there was several intelligent EVPs that was very unsure as to why I was sleeping there in this location. So I did capture that, and I did highlight it on episode 1 of season 2, which anyone can go back and watch the past 2 seasons on those 3 platforms that I mentioned. So, so that's probably one of the most active and some of the best evidence I've ever caught. It was at Brushy Mountain.
It's great though, isn't it, that you happen to be asleep and they're still talking about you and why you're there. And I find that fascinating when spirit do that.
Yeah, I mean, what was crazy about this one is you hear these. So it's a very echoey prison. The entire prison is, but the solitary confinement area is actually within the walls, but it's a separate building inside the walls. And the chapel was originally over top, and the solitary confinement was underneath. And so it's made out of stone that the prisoners actually mined themselves and, help build the prison. And so when you're inside there, it has this crazy echoey effect. And I was the only I was the only investigator that night. There were two ladies who run the paranormal there. It's now a tourist attraction, but they weren't open at the time. And so there was a lot of construction going on. And I think over the 6 times that I investigated, the 6 times was over a 4-year period. And so a lot of the activity had changed. And I believe a lot of that was because it had been closed and then they were in the process of converting it into a tourist attraction. And so the two ladies that run the paranormal, they were there and they had been staying in the office, which was in the central building. And I would check in with them on different occasions throughout the night, but they were actually asleep in there. And you hear in the very beginning, probably about 45 minutes after I fall asleep, these heavy footsteps coming through. And I had actually closed the big steel door to where it was maybe open, maybe 4 inches, and just so it would be completely dark. And you hear that, and it's like this thing just come. And I say thing because I don't believe that this one was actually a human entity. Came to the door, and it stops, and it actually says night night. And so, but then everyone else, which, I believe were several of the different spirits that, were there in the prison, you could hear this conversation of what, may have been prisoners talking between the cells. And then, the chapel was upstairs, but then also laundry was upstairs. And at one point you hear this residual toward the end of that 3.5 hours that I was sleeping. You hear what sounds like a dryer door close, and then you can hear that distinct sound of the clothes in the dryer. So there was a lot of residual. And then there was one, the only way I can explain it, it sounded like somebody bouncing a ball against a wall. And there was about 5 minutes of just this continual ball bouncing. So I feel like a lot of the time, some of the activity that I get while I'm sleeping it's different because, I feel like I'm in that more vulnerable state, and that, some of the interactions, because, I typically don't get scared or creeped out, but I feel like because I'm in that different plane, I guess, that maybe some of the entities that might not want to communicate while I'm awake and asking questions, they may be more likely to, communicate, while I'm in, a sleep state.
Yeah. I mean, that would have led on to one of the questions, actually, which is, from all the locations you go to, do you ever get the feeling, well, this was a bad idea? Maybe I shouldn't have done this one.
The case that I mentioned a little bit earlier, that's probably a location where I was the most creeped out. The spirits that were in there were 5, and one of them was a dark entity, and he was oppressing 3 of the others that were in there. And he was really becoming a little too familiar with me. And I also feel like that the location, I call it the house on Sunset Hill. And it actually started, I filmed episode 2 of season 1 there. It actually started as an investigation of a haunted relic based on a local legend. The local legend was about a monk who had perished in a train wreck, and the local doctor had, it was a massive train wreck. The local doctor took the monk's body, back to this tub and dissolved the skin from the bones and hung the skeleton up in his office. And so I was able to come into contact with someone who owned the alleged tub, and they had it stored in this abandoned house that they weren't using. And so I investigated the train wreck site, and then I was able to go into that house and investigate the tub. And I had so much activity from that investigation that I didn't know if the activity was coming from the house as well as the tub. And every time I would go to investigate, it was a split level house. And every time we would start filming, something upstairs would start distracting. And so I took, my REM pod up there and a recorder. I had limited equipment because I'm investigating this tub. So I took this upstairs and I caught what sounded like a body being dragged across the floor. Voices. I mean, it was incredible. The EVPs, and then the REM pod would go off. Every time I would start to film, it would go off. I would go up there to the first level out of the basement. Nothing would, it would be quiet and silent. Go back downstairs, the REM pod would go off. So I contacted the homeowner, found out a little bit of history about this house, and that she had indeed been experiencing some activity when she lived there with her family. And so she had also rented the home out for several years, and then it had sat back vacant for the last 10. And with her permission, she allowed me to come back and actually investigate the house. And this location was unlike anywhere I've ever been. I mean, typically if you go in somewhere, it's kind of hit or miss, and then you never know, especially if you have a camera on you. It was like the energy in this house, it craved the attention. And so I started going in on a regular basis, and I highlighted it on 3 different episodes of season 1. And there was so much feedback from people who had watched, wondering what happened with this house. Did you all go in, close any portals, or is the activity still there? What's going on? And so what they didn't know is that I was still going to the home. And so I decided on one particular occasion to take 4 static cameras in, record questions. I reached out to people who follow my episodes, and I was like, send me your questions. I'm going to record these questions, and I'm going to leave the cameras up. You tell me where to put them. I'm going to leave the cameras there, and then I'm going to play your questions overnight and see what happens. And then I also recorded the homeowner, and because she was elderly and she typically didn't go in the home other than to have somebody go to the house and mow the yard. And so her former husband was one of the people who had died in the home. Although I feel like the entity that was negative, I do feel like he was mimicking her husband to try to get her to come in. And so what was crazy was that live that was supposed to be a 15-minute setup, it turned out to be about 1.5 hours live of nonstop continual activity. And people started having activity in their homes when we were doing this. And so, when we turned the cameras off and the lives off, and my videographer was still following me, we were plugging up the cameras and starting the recorders and getting ready to leave. And as soon as I started the recorder with the homeowner's voice, the floor beneath me started vibrating.
And it's really strange when you just said that then, because I've just literally, as you was talking then, I heard a man's voice, as gruff as you like, and he said exactly what you've just said. And it was like, whoa, where's that just come from?
And that's not unusual. Anytime I talk about this location, weird things happen.
It's like a really horsey, gruff voice. And he was talking, but because obviously I'm a medium, so obviously as I was looking at you, it was like your voice changed. And I was like, am I hearing this right?
Yes, I've never had that. The floors started vibrating, and I had, like I said, it was a split level. And so, of course, being an investigator, I'm intrigued. And so my videographer was like, Miranda, we've got to go. We have to go now. We get outside. And so we're standing there saying the prayer of protection. And I will never forget this. I looked up, and, of course, we had the blinds open all through the house, and the flashlights, every piece of equipment that was there, the EDI box that I left, it's sitting there, and, it makes that little vibration sound too. And so it's sitting there going off. all the flashlights in every room. I mean, the house looked like there was a rave or something going on inside, because and that was when the homeowner's voice was playing. And so when I went back the next day to collect my evidence, also had the videographer with the camera on me, I had decided, because this entity craves attention, I want to go in and actually ignore everything. And so when I went in, of course, it seemed very upset, like it had been fooled, I guess. And poltergeist activities started happening at this point. Doors started being moved. Different things started happening. And against anything I wanted to do, because of course I wanted to introduce myself and everything again, or acknowledge, I wouldn't do it. And so, I mean, everything, it was trying to get me to do that.
Yeah.
And so again, it turned out to be a full case that was covered in both season 1 and season 2. And like I said, it got too familiar with me. And I felt like that house was often drawing me in anytime I would think of it. I mean, it consumed me. And so looking back, I am so thankful that that is a closed case. It's a paranormal investigator's dream, because I kid you not, you could not walk into that place and not have activity happen. But it was just too much, and it was getting really too dangerous for anybody.
Yeah. How do you feel about the paranormal style sort of hangover? Do you suffer with those when you've been on investigations?
I do. It is definitely a real thing, because I feel like at times, because you put so much into it, that it will just literally drain you. And I've been to a couple places that paranormal hangover has lasted for a couple days. And I mean, I'm typically a night person, so staying up all night doesn't really bother me, but just everything that goes into it, it is definitely a real thing.
I am having activity happen. I'm the only person in my house at the minute.
I can tell.
I've just seen him. I live in a brand new house, and I've just seen a man poke his head round the door, and I'm like, oh, where's he just come from?
I am not kidding when I talk about the Sunset Hill house, either, especially on podcast, something either happens during the podcast or people start experiencing, because during that live, I ended up working with a demonologist that helped with, I don't cleanse homes or anything like that. That's above, my knowledge base. And so I will do the investigations and that sort of thing, and then put people in contact with someone that can help. And so, I was just fortunate with this house that this demonologist let us film the process. And it was a 10-hour process. And we were getting these signs of departure. And, it was validating as well, because he reviewed my evidence, and I believed there were 5 spirits in there. 2 of them, one of them was definitely malevolent. And then there was a second one that, I don't know, kind of seemed conflicted. And then the other 3, they were not, they were just, they were being oppressed by, the main spirit. And so, anyways, he was getting activity as he was watching some of the evidence, and they were having some bizarre things happen. So
it was really strange, because I've never seen him, and he must have been around about 5'7". He's probably the same height as me, about 170. He had graying hair. It's like tight curls, really gray, but quite gray around here, but on the top, not so much. But he had a big, thick, heavy mustache, which I've never seen. And it's my uncle's birthday today, and he sadly passed away last year. And obviously, I'm sat there thinking, I wonder if it was him, but it wasn't him, because he's not the same sort of hairstyle or anything. But as you've been talking, I've been seeing things like flashing around in my kitchen and in my living room. I'm thinking, oh my goodness. But it's fascinating how activity happens when you come from all corners of the globe, though, isn't it? And it's I just find it fascinating.
It is. And again, for me, that was definitely a location, because I've never had, the floor physically shake. And so for me, that was one of those where when that happened, it's like, okay, it just got real here. And, am I too deep in? Should I have even gone down this route? So, I know exactly what you mean. And that would definitely be one of those locations. I'm thankful it's over. And I mean, what the demonologist did worked, because I mean, for that place to have been so active and to be so light now, it's pretty amazing.
The age-old question is if you had another case present itself to you that was exactly similar to this one that you've just been discussing, would you investigate this again?
Probably.
Good answer.
Yeah, I would have to say I would, because I feel like I did learn a lot from this past case, and to be able to help, this family with what was going on, to actually see the physical transformation of this house was amazing for me. Now, as an investigator, I will keep in contact with that family. I won't go in the home because I'm tempted to, drop a recorder, ask some questions, but what was in there is gone now. And so I don't want to take a chance of bringing anything back just out of my curiosity or bringing something with me. But if I was approached with a case such as this, I would have to say I would probably, check it out.
There's just no way you'd say no, is there? Let's face it.
Not after some of the things you've seen,
Yeah, we have to do it,
Yeah.
Okay, let's change the subject slightly. Other than your own, what other paranormal programs do you watch yourself?
Well, I like a lot of the local folks. I follow Soul Sisters Paranormal. They're out of Central Florida, and there's someone that I have investigated with. I really like their style. They have a program that I watch, and there is another investigator. He is not, like I said, as well known as the paranormal entertainment shows, but Jake Fife with the Fife Files. I like his style. I like a lot of the organic boots on the ground investigators. Doing what I do, I don't have a lot of time to really watch TV. And so, unfortunately, I haven't really been following any of the new paranormal shows on TV.
Yeah. I mean, we've spoken to the Soul Sisters before, and they're a really great bunch, aren't they?
Yes.
Fantastic team.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
But you're speaking at a not a festival. It's EnigmaCon next year, aren't you?
I am. Yes. Yes.
What date's that?
I believe it's April 17th. I think.
Yeah. Because I've got tickets to go to Salem Con, and I was going to kind of come out a little bit earlier, I think, and head to EnigmaCon as well. So hopefully, if I don't get to see you in the UK very soon, then hopefully I'll get to see you. Yeah, hopefully get to see you in April of next year.
Yes, I'm so excited about that because Alan had approached me, and just seeing the lineup of great investigators that's going to be there, and then just the location itself, it's going to be a real honor to be a part of that event. So. I'm so excited, and I'm excited even more to hear you're going to be there, possibly.
I know. Well, it was really funny because I actually chatted with Alan with regards to him coming on the festival and just having a chat with us about the EnigmaCon.
Yes.
And when he looked at my resume, he was like, I can't believe you've done all of this. And I was like, I'm just little old me. Part of the festival. But yeah, I said I may be hitting it up there next year because Salem's obviously the weekend after. So it may be that we manage to get in both of those at the same time. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, if we can make it, then we would love to.
Yes, I hope so, because it's looking like it's going to be a great festival, and I'm excited because they've started really early, and that's really cool because they put a lot into those, and so I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and you never know, we may be seeing you sometime in the UK in the future.
Very well may.
That would be very good. Yeah.
I know, but it's been fantastic having you on and discussing all of your paranormal exploits. And we've had the banners up, so our viewers will know where to find you. And, you know, is there anything else that you've got upcoming that we can have as an exclusive?
Let's see. Well, I'm wrapping up the end of the year. You know, I do a lot of different events with local motorcycle venues and stuff here. And I've had I'm wrapping up my Harley Davidson, My Time Behind Bars tour, where I went to different Harley Davidson dealerships and spoke and tried to bring in new people that are interested in the paranormal and travel. Right now, EnigmaCon is the biggest one I've got planned for the upcoming year, but we've actually got some big announcements that we're hoping to put out maybe in January about some different unique events that we've got coming up that I can't say anything about yet, but I hope that
January, come back on and we'll have another chat and see what you've been doing for the rest of the year. And it'll be fantastic to have you back on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You've been an absolute wonderful guest, very informative, and I've found it an absolute dream this evening. So thank you so much.
Yeah, fantastic.
Thank you, and it would be an honor. It's been an honor to sit and chat with you guys, and love to do it again.
Likewise.
Fantastic. So from John and I now, we're carrying on our 36-hour marathon, and we love that you're actually here with us for the next God knows how many hours. I don't know how we're doing it, John, to be honest.
No, mate. It'll be fine.
But it's great. We've got some awesome, amazing guests coming up for you. Keep your eyes peeled. We've got some huge names in the paranormal. We have Mr. Nick Groff. You know, he's come and spoke to us, and it's just phenomenal. We'd like to thank Miranda again from GhostBike Explorations. You know, go and check out her website and her feeds. Amazing footage on this bike. You should see it. It's absolutely phenomenal. But I think that's all there is to it from myself.
And for me.
Okay, we'll see you all very soon.
Yeah, bye-bye.